everybody. Welcome to a shave of the day. It's been a little while, been at least a week since I put a video out, but I've been waiting for something special. So today's shave is going to be a tobacco shave. RazoRock Tobacco number 2 for the soap. Always the Crown King scuttle. 24mm Silvertip badger and burl box elder. I love this wood. I love the handle on this brush. I love the brush. It's a good brush. Today I am using a new to me Geneva Cutlery 9/16 full hollow square point. Now I just got this the day before yesterday and it came to me pretty beat up. It was in good shape, good metal, good steel, decent scales, but really dirty. So I removed it from the scales. I cleaned the scales all up, got them nice cleaned up and polished, nice marbleized acrylic scales, and cleaned the blade up. There's still some minor pitting in it, mainly because I wanted to keep the logo, and I quickly discovered that if I wanted to go to pure polished, I would lose that logo, and I didn't want to do that, and I didn't want it to be pitted near the logo and clean everywhere else, so I left some of the natural patina on. And we'll go over the process while I'm shaving. First thing I had to do to get that thing was get it out of the scales without damaging the scales. I wanted to keep the original scales. They're beautiful scales, they're in good shape, they're really nice looking scales, so I didn't want to damage the scales. So I took a pair of flush wire cutters, and carefully clipped and filed at the pins that were in there until I could loosen it out. And then I lightly scrubbed it with some 800 wet steel wool, or 800 wet sandpaper, just lightly, very, very lightly, to get off some of the 100-year-old grunge that was on there. And then put the scales and the wedge off to the side. And went to work on the blade with the 800 wet sandpaper. Which is when I realized that if I went to full polish on this, I was going to lose that gorgeous Geneva Cutlery trademark on the tang, and I didn't want to do that. So I made the decision. Look at that. I made the decision to take it down to where there was still some patina, so that I could keep that trademark without it looking awkward for being the only spot on the blade that was still patinaed. So after 800 grit wet sandpaper, which took a while. I mean, I'm not going to lie. It takes some time sanding this down by hand. But then I went down and hit it with the Dremel with some with a 120 grit buffing wheel on my Dremel, which is a lot higher grit rating than the 800 wet dry, but believe it or not, it's a much gentler means of removing the scaling that was on it, the rust and patina that was on the blade. And so that made pretty quick work of it, got it down to a reasonable steel there. So I put on a felt wheel and some polish and finished it up. Brought it back upstairs, put it in the scales. And this is all this morning, by the way. It's Saturday afternoon, about 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 1:30 in the afternoon. So this was all this morning. Brought it back up here, pinned it back into the same scales using some new nickel pin hardware. And took it to the stones. Now, stones will make or break it, because if I can't get it to sharpen up good, then all that work is wasted. So, first thing I do there is clean up my Nano 1K specialty stone. Get it, lap it, make sure it's really flat. And then I take a Sharpie marker, like this, and run it along the edge. And the reason I do that is because then I can run this blade on the stone quickly and gently and easily determine if there's any major geometry issues. And the way I do that is by running it about 10 strokes each direction, each side of the blade. Very, very light, no pressure at all, because I'm not trying to remove steel, I'm trying to remove marker. And seeing exactly where the marker comes off and where it might be left behind, indicating some issues that need to be repaired in the blade. And thank goodness this one very clean, straight across the whole edge with some really teeny tiny small areas that had some pitting right at the edge of the blade. So I didn't have any geometry issues. I didn't have no bad hone wear. I mean, the honing, whoever owned this blade either took care of it or never used it, because there's no spine wear. There's no hone wear at all on the spine. It's in really good shape. So to preserve that, throw a little bit of electrical tape on the spine. Went to work on the Nano 1K, and took a little bit. Like I said, there was some very small areas of minor pitting right on the edge that I had to get out. So it took a little while to get it out with the Nano 1K. But once I got that pitting gone, that bevel came up really fast and really clean and really even across the whole blade. Moved on to the 5K, and it was shaving off the 5K. Easy. Popping hairs, no worries off my arm and leg from the 5K stone. So, you know, that was real quick. After about an hour setting the bevel and making sure the bevel was set properly, it only took about 7 to 10 minutes on the 5K, and then another 5 minutes on the 10K, and it was sharp. It was really nice. I went from the 10K to a Bethesda Black stone, which is a slate stone that's quarried here in the United States. I'm not exactly sure where in the United States, but it was part of a Facebook pass around. And so I jumped at the opportunity to try out some new natural stones and found that the Bethesda Black fits very nicely between my Imperial Aroca and my Nano 10K. Beautiful little transitional stone from the synthetic to the natural slate, and then finished it up with the Imperial Aroca, and here we are. We're shaving, and this thing is so smooth. I mean, the finished edge from the Imperial Aroca is such a sharp, smooth edge. It's so clean. It's so nice. I really, very, very happy that I bought that stone when I did, because it really has taken my shaving edges to the next step. Now, a gentleman on Facebook that quarries the Bethesda Black, he does the Bethesda Black in the Dakota Creek, or the Dota Creek, or something like that. They're both a natural slate stone, and if you have an ILR, I would strongly recommend getting the Bethesda Black to go between whatever your last synthetic or whatever is, just as an intermediate. I don't really like the phrase pre-finisher, because really it's just, I mean, they're all pre-finishers. It's either a finisher or it's not. So they're all pre-finishers because they all come before the finishing stone, but the Bethesda Black will make a nice transition if you use synthetics to set your bevel and work up through a synthetic progression before you get to that ILR. The Bethesda Black works really well. If you don't have an ILR, then I would recommend the Dota Creek, because it is a very good finisher after the Bethesda Black, but I do prefer the edge from the ILR. They're very, very similar. Very, very close in nature. But to me, in my opinion, the ILR is just that much more refined. With that said, we'll be right back with pass number 2. Don't go nowhere. Welcome back, pass number 2. So if you don't have, his name is Jonathan Coe on Facebook, and if you don't have a natural finishing stone, the Dota Creek and the Bethesda Black as a pre-finisher, or transitional, as I like to call it, because I transitioned from synthetic to natural with it. Both very good stones. I'm very, very happy that I had the opportunity to test them out. I'll have them through the weekend, and I do have a couple more blades that I got in a package a couple days ago that need to be honed. So I will be using those stones a couple more times before I send them along. But very inexpensive, very good stones, excellent feel on them, and really good finishes. So if you don't have a natural finisher and you're looking for an inexpensive option, Jonathan Coe on Facebook, I think that's his name, I'm pretty sure that's his name. I'll put a link down below, or I'll put his name down there if it's wrong. If Jonathan Coe isn't really what it is, then I'll put his name down below, and you can look him up and give him a holler on Facebook. He's mining these things out, pouring them out by hand, lapping them up, and still selling them at very reasonable prices. And even though I have my ILR, I will be getting one of the Bethesdas for my own to keep, because I do really enjoy using it as a transitional stone between the 10K and the ILR, because the ILR manufacturer says it's a 12 to 15K stone. I find it to be finer than that. I mean, it puts a serious polish on the edge. I'm not an expert. I can't even begin to put a grit rating on a natural slate stone like that and expect it to be accurate, but it's good stuff. And the Bethesda makes a nice transition. Well, you can hear this razor singing. I use a lot of half-hollow near wedge blades. Those are my favorites. Those big heavy blades. That's what I usually use. So I don't get a lot of the auditory feedback that these full hollows give you. But man, this is such a nice blade, and it sure does have a purty singing voice. She's slicing through those hairs and singing me a song. And it is a nice change. You know, the only other, I do have a couple of other full hollows that I like, that I use, but they don't get as much love in my den as the near wedges. But this one's a different beast. This one's, I don't know what it is. I love Geneva Cutlery, man. They make some really, really good blades. I had one before. It was a round point, and I really don't like using round points. I'm a little biased. I don't like the way they look, and I don't like the way they're constructed. I don't like that the edge ends here. Here, I have one here that I'm going to fix up for you. I'll show you. I don't like that the edge ends here, but I still have all of this here. It makes it tough to get behind the ears, makes it less accurate for me. So I don't enjoy using them. And when you couple that with the fact that I prefer the look of a square point or a French point or a Spanish point, or especially a barber's notch or something like that, I like the way it looks. I like the way it shaves. I like the way it feels. So I had a Geneva Cutlery 5/8 extra hollow, which sang like an angel. She sang beautifully, but it was a round point, and it was great while I was learning. It probably saved me from jabbing myself with a spiked point razor a couple of times, because I don't like them to be blunted. I like them to be sharp, but I get vintage, so a lot of them are blunted. But as much as that saved me, I ended up passing it along. I gave it away in a PIF because my preference is for the square points, and it wasn't getting any love. And I did the same thing with my gold dollar, not because it was a bad razor. It was a beautiful razor, just a round point. And I would prefer to use anything other than a round point. I don't like the round point razors. They have their place, and a lot of people like them, and they shave well, and it's, you know, it's not a matter of not shaving. It's the accuracy. I can't get in tight on the tops of my ears or the backs of my ears back here. And yes, it's aesthetics. So currently that case is the only round point that I have in my collection. This is close. This is a rounded off French point, but you can see I could still get in nice and tight with it. It's a preference. That's what I like. Don't go anywhere. Be right back. Pass number 3. Welcome back. Pass number 3. Got a good shave going here. This Geneva Cutlery is a really nice blade. I am very, very pleased with it. This was going to be one of the ones that I offered for sale eventually, but I don't think so anymore. It's convincing me otherwise in this shave. Really it's really a nice blade. So we'll see. If I can get something better between now and the time it's time to put it up for sale, then we will. If not, then we'll keep it. And that's the beauty of doing this as a hobby rather than a business. If I buy it and I like it, I can keep it. I don't have to put it in inventory. It's a hobby. This is not a business. I don't expect to make a profit from any of these razors. I like doing the work on them. I like bringing them back to life, back to use, giving them back what they lost 100 years ago when they were put in a drawer. It's enjoyable to me, and if I never make a dime from it, I'll still continue to do it, because the personal satisfaction that I get from bringing these blades back to life and putting them back to use, it's worth more than money to me. It's a wonderful hobby, and it's one that seems to be a natural progression for me from. I've always had a fondness of sharp metal edges, knives and swords and things like that. And I've always had a modest collection of pocket knives and display cutlery, as it were. And I've always, done my best to maintain quality edges on them. So this really is kind of a seemingly natural progression. Now, I've always liked the look of straight razors, but I've never enjoyed shaving until I started using them. So I never kept them around, never had any, because I never had any reason to, but I sure do now. I sure do enjoy getting them, and I sure do enjoy bringing these vintage tools back from the brink of extinction and giving them a purpose yet again. Giving them a place where they can do what they were intended to do, where they can be what they are. I feel a connection to them. Everyone that I had the opportunity to work on, they all have stories, just like you and me. These razors have seen some stuff. And they can't talk, they can't tell me what they've seen. Some of y'all are going to give me shit for this, and that's okay, I don't mind. Call me a dork, call me a nerd, call me a geek, call me whatever you want, but these guys, they speak to me. They breathe a sigh of relief when you get past the pitted metal and you eliminate the active rust and you start honing them. You can hear that shh, shh, shh that you get when you got them on the stones, and you're starting to get that bevel in there. You can hear it, you can feel it, and it really is like the razor starts to wake up, and it breathes, and it can feel the purpose come back into it, and I can feel the purpose coming back into it. And as much as I realize I'm anthropomorphizing these inanimate objects, and I realize how geeky that is. But you have to realize that I don't give a shit what you think. It's how I feel, and it brings a huge smile to my face when I can take one of these 100-year-old blades that have been sitting unloved on a shelf, maybe in someone's closet or in an antique store or in a junk drawer, while the owner utilized modern technology. I strongly and firmly believe that these razors appreciate being put to use, being brought back from the brink of death, and being made to function again, being made functional again, being made, I mean, they're always beautiful, but beauty's in the eye of the beholder. Function, that's the true test. And when you can bring a 100-year-old blade back from the dead, put it to use, its intended purpose, I think there's a mutual respect that's developed between me as the user and the blade as a tool. And you can take that for whatever you want. You can call me a dork, you can call me a geek, you can call me a dummy, you can call me an idiot. I don't care. Because at the end of the day, it don't matter. It don't matter what you think. It matters what I think. And it matters that these blades are back to use. And they're back to use because I got them. Because I care. Because I care about making that connection. Because I care about putting in the time to bring them back and put them back to use. I can go and buy, gold dollars by the bucket load. Gold dollars, gold monkeys, Xi razors. Put them in new scales and, customize them and modernize them and modify them and sharpen them and shave with them. And I could do that all day. And it wouldn't cost me any more money to do that than it would to do what I'm doing with these vintage razors. But to me, for my money, for my hobby, for my enjoyment, for my pleasure, there's nothing better than bringing one of these antiques out of Grandpa's closet, putting it back into use, putting it into somebody's rotation, whether it be mine or somebody else's, is inconsequential, but giving it a purpose again, giving it back a life that it lost 100 years ago, 80 years ago, maybe only 50 years ago, when Grandpa Joe decided that he was going to use an electric razor or a cartridge razor instead of this straight that he's had since he was 10, 15. So I get a kick out of it, and yes, I anthropomorphize it, and yes, I romanticize it, and yes, I get ridiculous about it, but I believe in that bond that is created between me and that blade. When I put forth the effort to make it functional again, I believe in that. I believe there's a bond that is developed. I believe that there is a connection that's formed between me and the blade, and you know, that connection is worth something, whether you believe in it or not. It's worth something to me. This is my newly introduced, I guess it's basically a touch-up pass, but what I do is I go across the grain the opposite direction just to clean up that much, that little bit extra clean up. I don't know if I've made a video since I started doing this routinely, since I've added this step to my routine, but it does end up with a cleaner shave. Sorry about that, battery died, so I charged it real quick. We're going to do a quick recap. Shave is done. RazoRock Tobacco number 2 was the soap. Crown King Scuttle, 24mm Silvertip Badger and Burl Box Elder, and Geneva Cutlery 9/16 full hollow, square point, and original scales. Don't know what splash I'm going to use yet, haven't figured it out. Folks, thanks for watching, thanks for being there, thanks for always coming back. As always, be good to yourselves, be good to each other. We'll see you next time. Bye.